On the morning of September 11th, 2001, Rick Rescorla lost his life while saving approximately 2,700 people from the South Tower of the World Trade Center. His sacrifice was the culmination of many years of loyalty, dedication, and service to this country. Rick's story of heroism does not begin on September 11th, and it does not end there either. Senate Bill SJR 88 will dedicate May 27th of every year Rick Rescorla Day in New Jersey. To commemorate this, I sat down with his widow, Susan Rescorla, and talked about her book, Touched by a Hero, to discuss the many fascinating aspects of Rick's life. This is the story of a true American hero. Good morning, Susan.
And good morning, and how are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. And your husband's story is an amazing one. And I happened to read your book about it, and I'm glad I did, Touched by a Hero. But I wanted to read something to you that was in the foreword by William Bennett, the former United States Secretary of Education.
Yes.
And he concludes his remarks by saying, "While we venerate too many not deserving the title hero, we neglect the real ones, the ones we can learn from, the ones we should emulate, the ones we should hold up. Rick Rescorla is such a hero." I think that sums up Rick's life so beautifully.
Yes.
That when you get into the rest of the book, you realize that your husband was a hero, not only in the military, not only in his work in the South Tower and Morgan Stanley as the head of security, but also in his daily life. And to me, that really says so much about who Rick was.
Right.
Rick was born in England,
Yes.
joined the military in England, comes to the United States, joins the military in the United States, becomes a citizen, and then becomes part of the American dream.
He knew as a very young person what he wanted to obtain during his life, and so that at the end of his life, that he would have known that he did the very best he could, and that he did that in every single thing. He was like a visionary. I mean, he was also a writer. He had many talents. And he even learned Vietnamese going over to Vietnam, so that he was able to speak about it. I mean, he was just a fascinating, interesting person. He was his own man, he didn't, you know what I mean? And
that came through in the book, right? Where
Yes.
Rick, with the people that he worked with, these were not the traders, these were not the wealthy folks, these were the day-to-day people.
Right.
That if they didn't have enough money for a suit, he took them out and out of his own pocket made sure that they could get a suit to come to work, to feel good about themselves.
one of the things, if I can just deviate a minute, we both wanted to go to Santa Fe, okay? And we were very excited about going, and we were supposed to be gone 10 days. 3 days in, he gets a call from one of his people at Morgan Stanley. And they said, "Oh, Rick," they said, "they're firing a lot of older people that had been there for years." So Rick turned to me after he got off the phone and he said, "Susan, I have to go home." He said, "I know a lot of these people, and I am not going to have them escorted out by a police officer." He said, "I am going to go there and give them dignity." And that's what we did. We cut it short so that this is just another instance of talking about what kind of man he was.
It talks about his heart,
Yes.
right? About
Yes.
what a tremendous heart he had.
Yes.
Tell me about how you met Rick. I thought it was fascinating how you happened to be out walking and this man runs by in bare feet.
Right.
What were you thinking to yourself at that point?
Well, I was walking my dog, and he comes jogging by with bare feet. And so I looked up like this, and I said, "Oh my goodness, what are you doing?" And then he turns around, he says, "I'm writing a play about Rhodesia," or something, which he was. I guess 2 days later, he was driving by and I'm walking the dog, and he pulls down the window and he said, "How about going out to breakfast with me?" And I said, "Oh, I have the dog right here. I don't know about that." I said, "But if you want to come for coffee on my back patio, that would be fine." I said, "But come in the back way," because it's like, I was like, oh, a man's coming into the house. So anyway, So he did. He went and had his breakfast, and he came back, and 4 hours later we were having coffee, and he had to go to New York, and he just said to me, "We're going to be friends forever." And we never stopped seeing each other. That was it. And so
Wow.
a few months later we were married.
Wow. You say that you've found your soulmate.
Yes.
And I can tell you that when I read the book, that came through to me clearly. Not necessarily by your words, but by how you've lived your life, not only with Rick, but since his passing. The people that you've met and his friends that you knew prior, you are still close with and still talk to
and his family
still
in England,
build
too.
on.
Yes.
When you first met Rick, did you know about his experience in Vietnam?
No, I really did not know. He did not want to talk about it. The book that came out, we were soldiers once. He and his men were in the book many, many times,
And that was the first real battle of
the Ai Drang.
Yes, the Ai Drang in Vietnam, where I think it was like 300 of the 7th Cavalry were dropped into a position in Vietnam against almost 4,000 Viet Cong.
Right.
And somehow were able to hold their positions and to win that battle.
Right. He was really fearless. He really was. I mean, even on the battleground, and how could I possibly know anything about this? But I can tell you that he was there to give confidence to his men, so that they would be able to carry on, because it must have been an absolutely awful.
Well, General Moore says that he was probably the best platoon leader he had ever seen,
Right.
And he's credited with really, keeping his men alert and calm under pressure, and in the midst of a battle where our American soldiers were outnumbered, he was able to keep everybody calm and focused by singing.
That's right.
Singing to them and
Yes.
talking to them and going from foxhole to foxhole to
Right.
make sure that they felt like they could get the job done.
Right.
Rick had a couple of great friends.
Two great
right?
friends. Yes.
Dan Hill
And Fred McBee.
Fred McBee.
Yeah.
Dan served in Vietnam with Rick, and there was a part in the book that he speaks about where Dan was at another spot in Vietnam, another location, and was in a pretty heavy firefight. Things didn't look good for his unit, and he somehow was able to get in touch with Rick and told Rick, "Hey, look, things don't look good. It could be the end here." And Rick's response to him was, "You just hold on, and I'll be there."
And that's true camaraderie. That's being soulmates with you know what I mean, that your buddy. So yes, and he had two friends that he was devoted to.
Well, and it amazed me because Rick somehow was able to convince his superior officers to let him take some soldiers and go to Dan's location and help them out of that situation. That's courage. That's a warrior.
Yes, absolutely. And I think it was also because of his background. I mean, here he was in Rhodesia, and then he was in Cyprus in intelligence, and then he was part of the Flying Detectives of London. You know, and all those things come into play too. I mean, but it's all about the man and how it starts out too.
Right.
It just is, it's the core of a person.
Every aspect of his life, each of the people that he's grown to know have, all saw this in him and all gravitated towards him as a result of it.
Right. You never forgot him. If you met him, you never forgot him.
Is a person born a leader, or are they developed into leaders? Maybe it's a little bit of both.
I think it's innate. Yeah. I think that's what it is. I think there's no doubt. There's just no doubt about it. That's what he was from a small child. He just was what he was. He just was a very different kind of man.
Well, he had to be, because when you think about his actions on 9/11, the North Tower gets struck first. He's in the South Tower. 20 floors of Morgan Stanley personnel that he's in charge of. The very next thing that happens is the Port Authority essentially comes on the intercom in the South Tower and tells everybody it's going to be okay, shelter in place.
Right.
Now, he is a military man, and as a military man, it's all about the chain of command. It's all about listening to your orders, but yet he chose to go floor to floor and begin to institute the evacuation plan that he had prepared for those folks over many years. And if it wasn't for him ignoring those orders and getting all of those people out that he was in charge to protect, the death toll in 9/11 could have almost been double of what it was.
That's correct.
Almost 2,700 people.
Right.
He was able to get out of that building because of his ability to lead. I mean, that in and of itself is an incredible part of this story. The other thing I wanted to talk about a little bit is about, he was there in 93. So he witnessed the bombing in the garage.
Right.
And it was after that that he began to believe that something else was going to occur. He actually even saw the potential for planes hitting both towers. He went so far as to contact his good friend, Fred McBee,
Yes,
who had a flight simulator program. And he had asked him to look at that flight simulating program to see if it was possible.
That's right, and that's what he did. He had a small group of people that he would call upon and say, what do you think about this? Then he could put it all together, whether Fred was doing that or Dan was thinking this or that, you know. I don't think the man ever stopped thinking. I don't even know how he slept at night because, you know, he just had so many things on his mind. And that last month of his life also, there was a complete change in him because you knew he wasn't talking much, he was thinking. I don't know, I guess it just was just leading up to everything that he would have thought could happen, happened. When I knew what was happening, I was talking on the phone and Dan Hill had called me and said, put the TV on, you know, looks like his planes have come into the sides of the buildings and things. And of course, I got so upset, I can't even tell you. So anyway, he could not call me, obviously, and then he did call me, and so he said to me, you have to stop crying. If something happens to me, I want you to know you made my life. And I was so glad that at least I had words from him, you know. Several days afterwards, people were, you know, they were finding bodies, they were finding some people that were alive and so forth and so on. And then there was a number you could call the coroner just to find out if, you know, if they found anything. They had not, and this went on for several weeks, talking to the coroner and all that. And then the chief of police in Morristown was wonderful, and he had told me that there was a call made that they found something. Would you believe that they found his military card?
Wow.
A charred military card, and that is something that I cherish also. That to think that of all things that they would find is the charred military card, because you see, I never had a body. So I couldn't have any service. There were no ashes. There was nothing. And we're waiting for the certificate of death to come, and it says homicide. They were all murdered. And that to me was very, very profound. That most people don't want to hear that, or they don't want to know that. But when you don't have a body and you don't have any ashes, thank you God that the month before also, this man was telling me every single thing he wanted me to know, because he knew something was going to happen. And he kept saying to me, are you listening to what I'm saying to you? And I said, I'm listening with a third ear. He knew it all. And that day that he's telling me, are you listening to me? I went home and I wrote down on a piece of paper exactly what I would say if something happened to him. And that's what's carved into his memorial. And it's about him flying with the eagles.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, they said that he was climbing to heaven.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
I think it was either Dan or Fred that said in the book that dying in 9/11 the way that he did, in saving as many people as he saved, in continuing that fight to get up those stairs when the tower fell, on his way to heaven, so to speak, that would have been what Rick would have wanted.
Absolutely, absolutely. People don't know this, but they actually somehow recorded him singing.
Wow.
And I have some of those pieces.
Wow, that's amazing.
It just was incredible how he would calm them down. And,
yes.
You know, he was singing different songs and so forth and so on, and mostly Cornish songs, I think. But then, he did say, get the hell out of here and hurry up and get out of the building. But the most profound thing that he said was, today is a day to be proud to be an American, because tomorrow the world will be looking at you.
Well, and he was absolutely right. One of the honors that was bestowed on Rick was the President's Citizens Medal. one of the highest medals that can be given by the United States. I was there at the ceremony. It was a very moving ceremony. I feel like I'm a very patriotic person, and I was a little bit embarrassed that I didn't know Rick's story till I got the invitation to go to the White House to witness that ceremony, to read his story, and then read this book. There were many people there who served in Vietnam. Some served with Rick. There were some from the Drang Valley. I believe there were 3 Medal of Honor, Congressional Medal of Honor recipients that came out of that battle. I got to talk to a few of them. I've got to meet you and talk to your family a little bit. Tell me, what did that mean to you that day?
That meant everything to me, because I went down there knowing that, in my speech, that I wanted to not obviously thank the president for doing this, but I also wanted those people in the audience who I really handpicked, were the firemen and the soldiers and so forth and so on that I've known for so long. And so that part of my speech was thanking the president, but also knowing that when we went back to the hotel to this dinner party, that I was going to honor all of them. And I was so glad that I did that, because they had said that in all these years they had never been acknowledged. And I'll tell you, I will never forget them.
It was very nice to see the veterans and the military, active military personnel, and the first responders that were there.
Yes.
And you are so accurate when you say they are such a brotherhood and so patriotic. These are really the true American heroes, and we don't see them as often as we need to, because these are the folks that we need to emulate. These are the folks that have given their lives, not for themselves, but for others. All the first responders that were there at Ground Zero, day after day after day,
That's right.
Searching and hoping. And now it's time for America to remember them as well.
That's exactly right, because that's what I was doing when I was there that night. I thought, they are going to know how much I love them and how much I respect them, and it made me feel good that they felt like that. And I just felt like it was an opportunity for me that I never would have had if I wasn't in their presence. And to this day, they are my friends. And I have met them many, many times over the years. Look at my life. I feel with the sadness, I have so much to be grateful for, because look at all these wonderful people that have touched my life. I don't have to mean I've been in their home or anything like that. But when they touch your life, like you're touching my life right now, that you keep that with you always, you don't forget.
No, but this is why when you say that you were a soulmate of Rick's, this comes through because of the way that you've handled yourself and the courage that you've had, and the fact that you've touched so many lives now, and that you've made a difference in those lives and stayed friends and close with the people that Rick was friends with and that you were friends with before he died.
I just don't think you should forget people who have touched your lives, Even if you just talk to them once a year or whatever, I think that it's important that people know, hey, I love you.
I often say that even in the political world, where there seems to be such division nowadays, there is more that unites us than divides us. The problem is we get too focused on what divides us and forget about what unites us.
Exactly.
I often think about the days following 9/11, and when you left your home and you saw all of the flags flying,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And all of the people coming out to donate, to do things, to volunteer, young men that were leaving their careers and joining the military to defend their country. And when I think about that, and then I think about the years later as it was slowly lost,
Yes.
I think, my gosh, why couldn't we have kept that patriotism, that united feeling of everyone together? Do we need to have a national tragedy to bring that back? What a shame that is that we aren't able to keep that going forward. And that's something that I think we should all strive for. One of the things that I found after I read the book was thinking to myself, have I done enough? And that's why I suggest that each senior high school seniors should be required to read this book.
Yes.
Because we have students that are graduating today that weren't alive on 9/11.
That's right.
Right, that didn't live through it. You do come away saying to yourself, am I the best that I could be? If you live your life like that, and if you say to yourself each day, as Rick did,
Right.
have I done enough? You know, am I the person I should be? That is an amazing life, that anybody that can live their life like that and think about that each day. Have I done enough?
When you go through life and everything in the beginning of your life is wonderful and so forth, and then suddenly you have challenges that you never thought you would have in your life. There were some times when I thought, oh my God, I'll never get out of some of the things, you know, that were challenging for me. And then somewhere God said, okay, it's your time now. And so that I realized that I didn't have to do anything, that it just comes to you. It comes here, and then you go here, and then you go here, and then you go there. And I think that's something that I learned that's very important to me. And that's why in my speech in Washington I said that it wasn't supposed to happen overnight that he would receive this wonderful medal. It was because I had to know him more in death than I did in life.
Your courage, your husband's courage, and what he accomplished in his short life, and the souls that he touched during that time period is an incredible story. And I am so happy that you have continued to bring his story to the people, not only of this country, but to folks around the world, because that's what America is all about.
That's right. Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
I've let him steal from men. Carry on. Carry on, carry on, carry on. In the valley of Montana all alone. There'll be better days to be for the 7th Cavalry when we charge again for Hero. Carry on. Though outnumbered and surrounded, Sergeant Flynn, recall was not sounded, Sergeant Flynn. Men of Custer's cavalry, you wrote your history by death without dishonor. Carry on. Carry on, carry on, carry on. In the valley of Montana all alone. There'll be better days to be for the 7th Cavalry when we charge again